I will say, once you get larger, I mean, there are definitely more problems, but you have to have those leaders in place in order for it to
Mm.
feel different, right? I can tell you I'm less stressed right now than I have been in my whole career. And it's because I have a supporting cast of people working to take things off of my plate.
Leadership AI, $38 million book of business, 32 team members. Today, we sit down with rockstar agent Rena Gilliam, and she's going to walk us through what her agency currently does to make sure they're setting themselves up for success, not only today, but also in the future. She's going to walk you through the bottlenecks and struggles that she has overcome in growing her business to the size it is now and what they continue to do to see tremendous growth. With that being said, let's start the show. Welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your hosts, Michael and Courtney Weaver, and we have a very special guest with us today, Rena Gilliam. She is an agency owner. She's a rock star agent, $38 million plus book of business, team size of over 30. Rena, welcome to the Buzz.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. We are super pumped to be talking to you today. Everything from leadership to culture to motivation to AI to how to run a successful agency, not only now, but in the future.
I am like busting at the seams. In our pre-show conversation, I was like, oh my gosh, we are going to have so much fun because not only do you have a giant book of business at 38 million and counting, you have a team of 32. You said one of your favorite things to talk about is leadership. So I want to jump right in with leadership, and then we're going to kind of go off and see where this conversation takes us. But I would be curious, when you think of leadership, what defines a leader for you in the insurance space right now?
That's an awesome question. So, well, first of all, leadership, I mean, it's the one thing that a lot of insurance agents didn't really think that they were going to be getting into when they started up their insurance agency. A lot of us kind of pictured this, shop on the corner, like an insurance agency on the corner, and didn't really feel like they were going to scale to the point where they actually needed to install um, not only like just effective leadership. So that's been a journey that I've been on for quite some time is how do I install effective leadership so I can continue to scale at the rate that I'm scaling at. I think communication with those leaders and making sure that we're all on the same page, and also that our tone of leadership is echoed. I really want to make sure that in working inside of my agency kind of echoes my tone so that so that we're not kind of leading in different ways. It's a consistent message to our team, and I think that it really helps with our culture.
Ugh, I love that. So you talked a little bit about thinking that we were going to be like the shop on the corner. I would be curious what your journey has been like to get to where you're at right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually started working as a producer inside of an agency, and my husband, he works for the railroad, and we got moved all over. And so I used to kind of joke that they at the railroad, they just somebody was sitting in a room trying to figure out where they were going to move us next because we kept getting moved from like state to state. And so I just kind of, got to that area and I found an agency that would work for me, work
Mm.
with, I let them know, hey, I'm only going to be here for a year or two. I'm licensed. I can sell like a rock star. Hire me on, and that was really good experience for me because I kind of saw the good, the bad, and the ugly with how to actually run your operation. A lot of people really think that a lot of insurance agencies, they run the same way, and that just wasn't the case. I really started seeing that very early on. So that was awesome experience for me. I ended up starting scratch in 2012. And then we kind of just started growing pretty rapidly, and the rest is history.
So I'd be curious because you have I mean, what, you're 12 years in now? No, 14 years in. I'm sorry, bad
Yeah.
math.
Yeah.
Um, so what part of your leadership journey, if you remember one or two, like what I call bottlenecks that you've had to grow through and learn from, would you say? And I would assume the bigger the business gets, the bigger the team size gets. That's when you've
Yep.
noticed things. So, like, what one or two things have you had to establish at a leader or grow through, like growing pains that you would have considered as bottlenecks in your business? Would you be willing to share right now that may help somebody listening?
Absolutely. I think a lot of times in agencies there is you end up with like almost an office manager. There's this role that a lot of people end up with an office manager, and usually it's your best agent. That's not
Mhm.
necessarily your best leader. They may not be able to influence. So that was something that was really difficult for me is I hired or well, I had my best agents. Yes, they were amazing at working with the customers and they could write business, but they weren't my best leaders. So that was one of the things that it was a really big learning lesson for me, and it did bottleneck us for a while because I didn't want to lose those agents, but I had to almost backpedal them out of leadership once I really discovered, like, hey, this isn't for them. Good news, they really didn't like leading people, so that was an easy backpedal. So they actually still work for me, and they love what they do now. So that's wonderful. The second I would say is that, when you're trying to figure out how to develop agents and you're going, okay, I need to put somebody in to develop agents, but I need the production. So when you're going,
Mm.
okay, like I don't have the resources to be able to pull somebody out of production, but they are definitely the person that I know should be listening to calls, should be holding people accountable toward for development. That was a moment for me that was a little bit difficult.
Okay, so I'm hearing one consistent in both of these. So the very first one, and I don't know why this has been around for a long time in the insurance space. It's just like, hey, you take your best producer and you turn them into
You
like your
promote them.
team lead,
Yep.
your manager,
Right.
and it's constant feedback. Like we've heard the same thing from multiple leaders, just like you, Renee, where it's like, actually, that is not the thing to do. It's
Right.
usually like your mid-tier producer that has a really great at what they do, but they may not be like that super just high energy or high motor type of producer.
Yep.
I don't know if you would agree with that or not, but like that's kind of what I'm hearing is like it's not always so for you agents out there that may be growing in your business or you're about to promote someone within your business, the thing to do right now is not necessarily to take your top performer off the phone and actually have real conversations with an individual that you find as a not natural leader, but the one that most people gravitate to is what I always looked at in the business. Like,
Yep.
where's my team gravitating to? When they go to ask for help, are they going to the top performer? Or are they going to someone else within the organization?
Right.
Would you
And
agree with that, Renee? Because that's the question that I would ask next is, so who do you promote? So you're
yep.
saying who they gravitate towards.
So I think so. There's two. So we obviously have a lot of experience outside of just the insurance agency. We've had better luck finding people totally outside the organization with leadership, resume, somebody that's been in an organization before with proven track record of successes where we have personally had a lot of luck in hiring somebody up from outside to come in and lead and take that over. I don't know if
Well,
that's your experience or not, or if you're promoting within. What's your experience?
we've done both. 100%. I totally, completely agree. I had a mentor of mine one time. He kind of mentioned to me, like, look for who is influencing your team. Have them run a meeting. Like,
Mm.
have them run a meeting, and don't watch the person that who's running the meeting. Watch everybody else. What is
Mm.
their reaction? How do they react to that person? If they're looking down and they're not engaged, that's very telling. You've got to have somebody that's influencing your people already, especially if you're hiring within. Because if you don't have that buy-in from them, they are going to struggle as a leader, no doubt about it.
Do you consider production when you're looking at promoting within? How important is that in your decision?
Absolutely. You almost have to in our
Yeah.
industry, right? And so, and it has gotten a little bit easier now that we're a little bit larger, or now that we're larger. So we're able to absorb a production by replacing it and down the funnel. But I do remember that moment that you're going, oh my goodness, like I can't lose their production. But here's the reality of the situation in my mind now that I'm kind of past that point. Um, you may lose them anyway if you're
Mm.
not if you're not developing them,
Mm.
and they're going to become complacent. And so I think it's really important as agency owners that we have like very good conversations with our folks about like what are your aspirations. If you're not having those conversations with your agents, you are going to lose them. There's just too many choices or places for them to go now. So I have those conversations with my agents all of the time. Like, what are your goals? And if I'm not developing them on that stuff, shame on me, because that's really what they're needing from us.
Okay, so I want to drill down on this a little bit because when you have somebody that is your top performer, they have the highest sales and they want to grow. What's the next position that you can promote? What would you put them in? If you're not going to put them in like the office manager, what is that? Head of sales? Like what does that look like for you?
I have seen, so I've played around with this actually. Originally, I had them in a little bit of a hybrid model. I
Mhm.
don't, it's not the best though, because you really don't want your leaders, you don't want somebody who's responsible for, for overseeing somebody else to be thought of as competition,
Mm.
like, and that was what we ran into when we installed somebody who was still, producing it. There were, kind of concerns that maybe they were getting different leads or, different things. And while they weren't, it was perception,
Mhm.
really have to be careful with that when we're trying to install leadership. So, um, I like the model where you actually install them as a leader. They're gonna have to work to develop, and they're also gonna have to work on accountability. Other things is taking things off of the agency owner's plate. I measure my leaders and their success all by how much they're able to pull off of my plate so that I can do other things. So that's kind of how I've always built out that role is we're not only going to concentrate on developing our producers because we're kind of talking on the sales side. So we're not only going to develop those producers, we're also going to make sure that everybody's very clear on their goals and we're tracking all of those things and making sure that our trajectory every single month is pointed toward that. But then also, what can you take off of my plate so that I can improve the business on my end? If we can do that, we can support your role.
Oh, I want to keep going on this because this is such a good topic. Because you said something earlier that was a light bulb. You said it gets easier now that we have gotten larger. And I think a lot of people listening went, what? Because there's a point where you just keep thinking that you're going to have to do more and you're going to have to double down and it's going to be harder as you're growing. I would love to know when it felt easier for you. Like, at what size were you like, oh, hell yeah?
Well, I mean, you've heard mo money, mo problems. I will say, once you get larger, I mean, there are definitely more problems, but you have to have those leaders in place in order for it to
Mm.
feel different, right? I can tell you I'm less stressed right now than I have been in my whole career. And it's because I have a supporting cast of people working to take things off of my plate. It was when I installed an operations manager, to be very clear. I had a guy who came in and he didn't actually have insurance experience. But he had operations experience.
Mm.
So I knew that I didn't need that. I had a great sales manager and a great service manager, and they were doing very well running their departments, but everything for me got heavy, because everything funnels up.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to take different things off of your plate, just like paying bills or, all of those other things like that can really open you up to be able to, get creative and think about processes a little bit differently. Like right now, I'm big on automation. Without my operations manager, like I wouldn't be able to dig in the weeds on operations and kind of introducing AI because I wouldn't have the time to be able to get creative with that kind of stuff and install it.
Yeah. Is this Kevin that we're talking about?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Kevin's dope. So he's great. He's tremendous at
Yeah.
what he does. Had a great. Obviously, I've talked to Kevin, but
Yeah.
it's so funny that you say this, Renee, because that was one of the biggest. We were bottlenecks in our own business. So over on the Weaver Sales Academy side of things, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago now? That's when we invested in a operations manager. So COO changed our life, like
Mm-hmm.
incredible, like amazing. And then that's actually like with agency coach, two of the very first positions we just hired. While yes, I need some help with because we're still very small, like we're bootstrapping right now, like we're growing. But two of the very first positions we've hired, yes, they'll help with sales, but they help with sales for a really short amount of time. This is like a 90-day window, and their
Uh-huh.
two positions are head of sales and head of strategy and growth. And that head of strategy and growth is kind of what you're talking about right now, like that individual that is creative, a visionary, operations, like very focused on automations. How can we grow while creating a great customer experience? While then the head of sales is okay. This is that position explains itself. So I love what you're saying because so many times what the point I'm trying to make here is we hire for the immediate need. Sometimes I know I did as a young business owner. Whereas realistically, if you can start to grow as a leader and business owner and start to hire for future positions and you start to look for that position, that person that is going to be a good fit now, but you also will be like, okay, that is going to actually be the perfect position for you.
Yeah.
That's what has helped us out the most in our businesses, I believe. What do you think about that?
So I just went through this. Actually, this is like a more of a belief system for me that I've had to work through, and like an identity. Because when you're doing something so much as the leader and everything starts to get taken away from you, as it should, you
Yeah.
start delegating it, then you start looking around and going, what am
What I do?
what am I doing here? And I struggled with that for a long time, and I'm still working through that because I love being a part of the process. And when you have so many people that are insanely talented around you, they
Oh,
handle those processes. And the thing that I have really kind of leaned into, and I think this is where you're at too, Renee, is what system can I build or what data do I need to review to make this more efficient, to
yeah.
optimize the current system that I have right now? Aside from pouring into people, which if I had a role, I was thinking about this weekend. I'm like, if I actually wanted to say what my title is, it would be head of humanity. Like I want to be in charge of the people and how they're feeling, especially with all the AI. But I think there are a lot of agents that don't intentionally do this, but I think we hang on to things that we shouldn't because if we give everything away, there's kind of this, what is my role? So I would be curious, Renee, as you have delegated things, what does your role look like now? $38 million book of business that's growing. You lead a team of 32. What is your, like, when you think, okay, this is where I get to put my gold into my business? You've talked about automation. You've talked about AI. Like, walk me through kind of what that looks like for
Great
you.
question.
So yes, I actually have had numerous conversations with my operations manager where he's just like, "Man, Renee, I know that this is your baby, that you don't have to do this." And it
Mm-hmm.
all gets me thinking. I'm so happy that he has those conversations with me because I know that I need to give him freedom to be able to operate that's what I hired him to do. I
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to give him freedom to be able to live into his role and how he wants to show up for his job. So yeah, it's been a wild ride because now I am getting very creative. So right now I am working on an automation sys journey. I would almost call it a customer renewal journey. That we don't have the ability to call every single renewal, but I want to make sure that we have a consistent experience for every single customer. My customers are as, if not more important to me now than they were when I was a $1 million agency. and I want to make sure that I have like consistent experiences for our customers. So yeah, I've been able to kind of like build that, which is super fun for me. I mean, it like lights me up, because I'm like, man, like I can actually do some of these things that are a lot more creative. Same with new business onboarding. I saw some problems with that. And then also, as technology has advanced, I've been like, wouldn't it be cool? Well, now I've got the time to execute on the wouldn't that be cool? So kind of where I'm at.
All right, I want to dive into these two things right here because you said a few things, but I want to go back just real fast and just share. I don't know if you can relate to this at all, Renee, but I think things happen for a reason throughout time. And as a leader, so I used to be a major control monster. The control monster also will creep up on my back every now and still today. But like these two, like the two individuals I was just sharing with you, like they are fantastic, and they actually came to the table within the first week. They are starting a new CRM for us. They are building our like a lot of things that like 5 years ago as a leader, I'd have been like, hold up, we are not doing this. Like, you're going to do what I want you to do, like the way I want it. And so I share this story because number one, I'm proud of us for developing as leaders and being willing to hire great people and then let great people do what great people do and being open to their ideas and changes. But I
Yeah.
don't know I don't know if you're a control. I know not every CEO is a control monster, but I don't know if you have that experience of growing with a leader and delegation almost seeming like it gets easier as you grow as a leader because you develop like trust maybe in the process. Like, can you relate to that at all?
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard for me to let go. I was definitely a control monster. Okay,
Okay.
so I'll go ahead and like, yeah, I was. I'm not at all anymore. And the reason why is because over the years, I have developed a lot of confidence that people will do their best. I mean, like, give people the keys to your car. Generally, they're going to drive it safer than you would,
Mm,
great example of this is I was always known as the numbers girl. Like, just in my circles, everybody comes to me to understand, their numbers and their return of investment and all of those types of things. I held on to managing my ROI on my marketing for way too long, way too long. And I did hand that over to my ops manager. And guess what? He does it better. Like, he actually does it better. Why? Because he has the time to do it. It's part of the job, and he knows that he doesn't want to mess it up, right? Because he understands how important it is that we maximize every single penny that we're spending. So that's just a great like example of like things that I've turned over to other people where it's like, you know what? This is actually better.
yep. And then, so the things I wanted to, because you said two key, or you said really one key word that I want to hone in on is you're having fun now. So you're
Oh yeah.
doing the things that, because as a new business owner, look, I'm not trying to make agency ownership like it's very hard in the beginning. Like there's a lot
Yeah.
of times as a
Right.
CEO, I know that's a cool word that likes to get or phrase that likes to get thrown around. Look, yeah, you're the CEO, but you're also probably the errand person and the cleaner, and depending on where you're at in the stage of the business. And so, but as you grow, your role does change, and it sounds like now you're getting to do what maybe not only more fun, but what you specialize in, and the things that can probably make the biggest difference in the business. And so, I know one key thing with you right now is working on AI and automations, not only from a customer experience standpoint, but helping your business run more efficiently, setting your agency up for the future. So I'd be curious if we can talk about what fun looks like a little bit later, but even what AI or what you're working on right now to really make sure that you're building a business that not only performs now with AI, but stays ahead of the curve and really propels you forward in what the future looks with
Yeah.
AI and your agency.
Yeah. Yeah. I think all of us are just scratching at the surface of how AI can really help our agencies to create capacity. And also I think a big piece of this is um we have pretty tight margins in our business. And so we're gonna have to use AI in order to try to widen that a little bit,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
And so those are some of the things that I am trying to do is make sure that I am loading and staffing and marketing are no doubt our biggest expenses. I don't think that there's any secret there. And so, anything that we can do to create capacity, like pull this job off so that, I would much rather pay the people who are already on my team more
Yep.
do the job so to work with my customers because they're amazing and my customers absolutely love my folks. So I would rather pay them more and then automate something else so that they have more time to talk to my customers. We've been creating all sorts of different things like down to texting, right? Like we have a bot that our team members obviously don't put any like sensitive information in there, but um for whatever text message that they're trying to convey or email, they can talk to this bot and it generates out, a great message. So make them quicker, let them get off and on with the next customer. So those are some of the things that we're doing operationally. We're making sure that we're marketing in the correct areas and we're making sure that we're driving down our cost. So those are the two things that we're really playing with right now.
AI. AI is not only the future, AI is now. And you don't have to be worried about AI replacing you or your job or your career, but you do have to be worried about your peers that utilize AI to get ahead of you. If you're interested in learning more about how AI can make you more efficient and effective in everything you do at the agency level, meaning saving you time, 12 to 15 hours a week, increasing agency performance by 18 to 22%, increasing retention of current customers on call-in to cancels of 34% of saved business. That's a retention increase of 34%. If you're interested at all in helping your agency understand how AI can help them get to the next level without devoting more time to get there, I would encourage you and I would invite you to join me on a free training I'm doing around AI and how you can use it as an agency owner to get back your time, to help your agency scale efficiently and effectively, to help you hit those big production numbers without having to dedicate more time or resources to them. Again, I'm covering all of this and more in this upcoming training. I would encourage and invite you to join me. Click the link below in the show notes, and I look forward to seeing you there. Okay, so let's dive into some of these because you didn't say these words, but what popped out of mine was more efficient, more effective. And so just speaking on behalf of owning an AI company, so like agency coach, that is what we're seeing with agency owners, just like yourself. So and when you think about scaling, like the old traditional model where like with agency owners your size, I would assume a potential bottleneck is, okay, if we continue to scale through salespeople or CSRs, well, then we have to hire managers or team leads because an effective team lead can really only effective manage 6 to 7 people.
Sure.
Whereas with like agency coach, what we're seeing with agency owners your size is you're going to be able to now dump your money or reinvest your money into individuals that can produce and grow your business, because now managers can effectively manage, let's say 20 to 25 people with the data they're given, and making the role a little bit more simple or efficient. And so when you think of more efficient, more effective from a business standpoint, besides Agency Coach AI, we're working together. Like, is there anything else that you're doing, or even speak on behalf of like maybe how Agency Coach, but I'd be curious like what you're doing as a business owner from an AI perspective to help operations run more efficiently, effectively from a staffing standpoint.
Sure. It, basically I was trying to build Agency Coach AI internally. And like let's get real. Like that's what we were doing. We saw your vision basically for Agency Coach AI. And you've heard the like don't reinvent the wheel, right? Once I saw how robust your model was, it's like, okay, let's scrap our Atari version and go over here. So I absolutely love Agency Coach AI, and you're right. Like I would prefer that most of the conversations are scored and my team members are able to improve on their sales process on every single call. I would have loved that when I was a producer.
Mm.
Now, I don't think everybody appreciates that feedback, but if they don't appreciate the feedback, maybe they're not the right
And in the
person,
right role. Yeah, that's right.
because we
Yeah.
want to make sure that we have people on our team who are always wanting to improve. And so, yeah, I mean, rather than having a manager sit and listen to calls, trying to find that nugget that they could be able to take back to each producer to help develop them, now there's, a tool out there for it. So, yeah, we were trying to develop a bot, not trying, we had developed a bot that was giving, feedback, but it wasn't as robust.
Okay. So
Highly
another
recommend, by the way. It's awesome.
well, thank you. Thank you. And you got like and what you just said is why obviously we built Agency Coach. But I'm also curious. So when you talk about market, so we talked about, you just talked about a few things. So making it more efficient for your team members to get instant feedback,
Yeah.
great instant performance, making it easier on your managers. You didn't talk about this, but maybe how their role has also evolved. But the other question I was going to ask you, because you mentioned marketing, have you found anything from a marketing perspective from AI or automations to help you run more efficient and effective as well?
Well, we do have a company that we are using for, to help us analyze return, but from an AI perspective, uh, it really helps us refine our zip codes. So basically what we're doing is we're dumping in a lot of our information, internal information. We used to use our
Right.
carrier's information, but um, I found that our internal information was a little bit more telling from
Hmm.
perspective. Maybe it was because of the radius that we had around us for our consumers and that kind of thing. Our internal data was much better for us than our carriers. And so, long story short is like basically trying to identify those zip codes and even refine it down even further into neighborhoods and utilizing it to kind of get that sweet
Okay.
spot. I guess I hope I'm answering your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost interesting hearing this conversation because when we talk about like the hierarchy of an insurance agency and how it's shifted from like the office manager to like sales and service and having them hybrid, then we've gone into like a specialized model. It almost feels like leaders, and correct me if I'm wrong because I feel like this, but leaders are more stepping into like the CTO role of like I'm in charge of tech or I'm in
Mm.
charge of innovation or I'm in charge of automation or efficiency or whatever. I feel like that's like the new role that's kind of emerging, is really taking that like COO but like really infusing it and going, where can we automate, optimize and get the most out of our people?
Well,
Yeah.
when you think about that, it's that's the best use of our time, I think, is how can we make our businesses run more efficiently, more effectively? How can we make everyone's role
Ultimately.
easier? How can we perform better? And so me and you talk about this all the time. Like as leaders, I feel like that's almost like our duty right now, an obligation as an organization until you have maybe the funds to invest in that expert
Sure.
that would be like the tech officer. Like that's how we are going to, when you think of the best use of a CEO or our mindset, that's in my opinion, that's going to be the best use of our knowledge and power and time, is understanding and figuring out how do we use tech and AI right now to really propel our businesses and our people forward. Like,
Uh-huh.
Well, and it feels like too, we're trying to meet people where they're at, and there's such a wide gap because we have baby boomers who are literally like on their way into retirement, but still want to shop and buy and communicate in a certain way. And then you have Gen Zs and Gen Alphas that are coming up that are completely different. So I think as humans, we're really looking around as business owners and going, how do I meet all of these different people where they're at with my
Right.
team? So
Yeah. That's something that we're talking a lot about in our agency too, is everything is changing down to sales
mhm.
process. I mean, I remember back in the day, I won't say the exact day, but back in the day, the average close was right around like 4 to 5 business days. And that was kind of anticipated and expected, right? Now you better one call close that policy. Otherwise, you probably aren't going to have another shot, especially when you're looking into some of the younger generations. Like they're just more inclined to like, okay, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna get it done and check it off of my list and I'm not gonna think about it again, right? And so we've been adjusting everything in our agency to kind of, you know, steer everything that direction.
Yeah, sounds it's fun. So I do have you have 4 locations, right?
Yeah, we've actually consolidated down to 3 now. So yeah, 3.
Perfect. Okay. So, I want to have this conversation with you real fast because I believe what I'm seeing carriers do is give really good agents the ability to have multiple locations. I know you've had the ability, like your carrier's given you guys the ability to do that for a while, but a lot of individuals, a lot of you listen to this podcast right now, and you are with a carrier that is expanding, allowing you to operate multiple locations. And so, Renee, that's one thing that I wanted to just run by you real
Yeah.
fast is when you start to, because you said some cool words earlier. You said communication, you said tone, of like the culture, tone of the leadership. And so when you are running multiple locations, if you were coaching or mentoring an agent right now that was getting ready to open up a second or a third or a fourth, what would be one or two piece of advice you would give to them as to things to look out for, or hey, you may want to pay attention to this as you start to open up additional locations?
Yeah, I actually I kind of have a weird story. I got moved away from my locations very early on. So it was 2015. I was working remote before remote was cool. So I've I've always had this like I don't have to be there in order to be there, mindset. And so I think that helped me. There are so many tools. Reports don't lie. Like, and that's what I've always told my people is that like, hey, I get that things get hard during the day. I get that things come up, but we know that we need to execute on these goals. How can I help us get to where we do that? And I think that that's a big part of why agency owners don't feel comfortable and confident opening up a secondary or a third location is because they just don't know how they're going to manage it. Get
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with resources like Zoom calls. Like there's all sorts of different ways to. I love my culture. We have so much fun. But it's by design, right? A lot of it is by design. I want to feel that connection with every single one of them. So we implement like fun little games. We have chats going on all day. We have good mornings and we celebrate wins. We've got even a shout out and wins chat that whenever anybody does something cool, like we all celebrate it, right? So there are ways that you can do it. You just have to use tech, to be able to do that.
Okay, I love that you said that. How am I there if I'm not there? That's a
Yeah.
question that I would ask every single person who's wanting to grow and wanting to expand. How would I be there if I'm not actually physically there? So I'm going to ask you the question, Renee. If you had to pull one report, look at one thing, one set of numbers that would give you like the most honest picture of what's happening in your agencies, what's the thing that you would pull?
Quote volume.
Okay.
Quote volume. I feel like, and I don't even know that there's a close second. And I think it's because it's the middleman between activity, because you have to have the activities in order to get there. And as long as you've got the quotes, you're going to have the sales.
Okay.
So when I first moved away from my agencies, the very first thing that I would look at in the mornings, and I'm a kind of a nerd. I get up at like 4:30 in the morning, and I sit there and I look at data for a long, long time. The very first number that I would look at is what was our quote volume from the prior day,
Mm.
Okay.
So
and then
good.
be like, okay, what do I need to do to help bring them more quotes, right? Like, is it a marketing problem? Is it a, agent problem? Are they not doing what they need to do? From there, you kind of like figure out which other numbers you need to look at to actually figure out where the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you could on the front end of that, it's like, okay, why do they not have the quote volume? And then on the back end of that would be closing rates are off or
Well,
multi-line production is off. Is that kind of like what you're talking about? Quote volume being that middleman.
yeah, absolutely. I
Okay.
mean, now, I mean, obviously, like once we start selling business, well, quote volume can actually indicate to you, like, okay,
Yep.
all of that
Yep.
bundling for sure.
Yep.
Uh, so yeah.
Okay. That's great.
I,
That's an awesome.
I,
That's a good one.
yeah, I don't know that I've ever had that drilled down so like specific, because it really does kind of give you an indicator as a leader. Then you can go case by case basis and go, okay, do I go up on this? Do I go down on this? Do I go
Yeah.
directly to this person? Is there a system
And you're going to see
broken?
you're going to see a lot of trends
Patterns,
within
yeah.
that and patterns, and that's all you're trying to find as a leader or coach is the pattern, because you can coach to the pattern. Like you just got to be able to figure the pattern
Yeah.
out. And I agree 100% with you, Renee.
Quote
Like I think the quote volume
volume.
is extremely important, and I don't know if we've ever had anyone say that. So
Nailed
bada
it.
bing, bada boom, let's go.
Okay, so if you had to give one little nugget to somebody who's listening to this podcast and they're like, okay, you just blew my mind based on the size of book that you have, the size of team you have, how much fun you're having, what you enjoy that you're doing. If you could give some advice, some little word of encouragement, somebody out there who's like, man, I just feel like I am in the trenches. Like I just keep getting hit in the teeth by my carrier, by claims, by customers. What would you tell them?
You know, I think the biggest thing is if you take care of your team, like if you really take care of your team, they will take care of you. I have great relationships with so many of the people on my team, really all of them. And I know that, you know, I have one of them who always says the speed of the leader is the speed of the gang. And, and I love that when she says that to me, because she's basically like saying, okay, she knows that I am going to always be like gas pedal to the metal, right? And they know that too. I could call my team and say, hey, we have another acquisition today, which if any of them are listening, we don't, so don't worry. But I could tell them all today and they'd be like, well, that figures, they've kind of just gotten used to that, but they're on the ride with me, right?
Mhm.
Hmm.
It's about like creating that environment of like, hey, we're going to do cool things. And, and let's do these together. Let's be rad together.
Let's be
I,
rad together. Oh
I,
my God,
yeah,
yes.
I dig that. What is it? Richard Branson that's like, take care of your team, they'll take care of your
Yeah.
customers. Same thing as you. Like, take care of your team, they take care of you. And
Well, isn't that like the whole point? Like, is to build something cool with cool people for cool customer? Like, isn't this the whole point of all of this?
literally, yes.
Yeah.
Like, all great businesses are built by great people. Like you can't build
Let's
these
build
bad boys
something
by
rad.
themselves. So
Oh
let's
my
build some
God.
rad. That is a good mic drop moment. So Renee, thank you so much. We vibed out on this. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
You dropped a ton of golden nuggets. I literally have a page full of notes. If somebody wanted to follow you on your journey or reach out, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh, well, you can always get in touch with me like on Facebook, definitely on Instagram. I don't have my handles, I guess. So
We'll
all
drop those.
that to me anytime and I will make sure that we connect. How's that?
Cool. So we'll drop those in the show notes. For those of you who tuned in today, thank you so much. As always, time and attention is by far our most important assets, and we appreciate you hanging out with us today on The Buzz. Renee, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Had a lot of fun.